Hi again. Now this one's a bit disturbing. Families and elderly people are facing a real battle to get their loved ones social care at home. That's according to the charity Age UK.
They've brought out this new report and it highlights what they say, a huge fall in the provision and funding of home care services. Louisa James has more on this, but some of the figures are quite dramatic.
Yes, Ranveer, this report says that in the last 3 years, 3 million hours of home care have been lost. The average spend per adult on social care by councils has fallen by 13%. And overall, 400,000 fewer older people received social care. Now, the charity says this is because councils are being forced to tighten eligibility criteria, and that's because of government budget cuts, despite a rising demand for care.
Thanks to that, we're joined from Leicester live now by the Shadow Health Secretary, John Ashworth. Labour are promising £8 billion. They're going to throw a big pot of money at this if they win the next election. And here in the studio, we're joined by dementia campaigner Jayne Connery, who cares for her elderly mother at home. Good morning, Jayne.
Hello,
I have to say, I'm amazed that you are a campaigner because of the hours you have to spend looking after your mum. It's about 13 hours a day, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, my mum has home care in the day. I've got a living carer, but I take on a lot of the responsibility to oversee her care.
And you get up at night? You have to get up in the night?
I get up some nights. I've been known to get up 3 times in the night, hence why I'm quite tired today.
What is your mother's condition? Has she got dementia?
She's got vascular dementia, various health problems.
How bad is the dementia now?
Late stage now.
Late stage?
Yeah, okay. Immobile.
But she was in care, wasn't she?
She was in care for 5 years.
Why isn't she in care now?
She was abused in her first care home. She was slapped across the face by a night carer, rogue night carer. Oh. But in the various other care homes, the carers are superb. It was basically down to understaffed, undertrained,
yes,
and under pressure.
So what are you not getting in the home that you need? How is it falling short?
Well, I think compared to the stories, I run Care Campaign for the Vulnerable, a national campaign, and we talk to many families and carers, and compared to their stories, mine's charmed. It's basically the funding is very hit and miss, and it's a bit of a lottery. And families tell us, and I'm going through this, I'm trying to get night care for my mother. And I understand that the money has to be, has to be given wisely and it has to be given fairly. Mm-hmm. But I strongly believe that our elderly and people living with dementia are being failed, and I think that's where the stress and the lack of empathy is. Dementia is a disease; it's not a condition.
And the problem, of course, is that that if you decided that this was too much for you, there's no legal obligation. You love your mum, and so you're doing it out because you want to do it for her. But if you decided that this was too much for you, or something else happened and you couldn't do it anymore, you didn't want to spend 13 hours a night sort of getting up every so often to do that, you could leave, and then what would happen to your mum? Presumably she'd end up in hospital because she'd have a fall or something.
My mum was in hospital. Yeah. She was quite severely ill until I got a second opinion, and she's recovered from that particular incident. But I think people's lives, and I say people because I've got tens of thousands of supporters that contact us, and their lives are affected. My life is affected, and I'm in the sector, and I struggle.
And you know the system.
I know the system.
How to get the help.
And I hit a brick wall.
Yeah, but it puts pressure on the NHS. I mean, for all of us, and then it affects everybody, doesn't it? From the young and the old. Then the NHS affects all of us.
I think what the government, and you're right, Richard. It's the government. The government has to stand up and say we have to protect our dementia elderly. And I say dementia because these people ultimately are sick.
And I'm a patron of the Alzheimer's Society, and what I've learned since I've joined them is that these people, they're us.
Yes.
It could be you, it could be you, it could be me.
Yeah. Well, 15 years' time.
Or 5 years' time.
Absolutely, Richard. My grandmother, my mum, it could happen to me. I mean, there's times when I forget.
Don't we all have this terrible thought, don't you? You think, is this the beginning?
Yeah.
Forget something, you forget someone's name.
But you know something? Dementia doesn't scare me. My mum is in her world, and she's happy with good care now.
Does she know who you are, or is that completely gone?
She calls me her mum. So.
Oh, does she?
Yeah,
because you're caring for her, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and she's the sweetest, and she has moments of clarity, and she's on the ball, but she's ultimately, she needs 24-hour care.
Yes.
Yeah. And will you try and apply for that, do you think? I mean, or are you going to hold the fort?
Well, this is where it gets a little bit challenging, because my mum technically has 24-hour care. She's got a living carer, but they don't get up in the night to tend to my mum.
Well, they've got to have a break. I mean, they're
of
still
course,
working. Yeah.
and I totally get it. That's why I get up.
And what do you have to, very quickly, before we speak to the Shadow Health Secretary, what do you do in the night? Is it taking to the toilet? Is that what we're talking about?
No, my mother's, sorry, it's more incontinent.
I see. So you have to
and
clean her
she
up,
can't
yeah.
do nothing for herself.
No.
So she can't communicate her wants, her needs.
So you have to go and check on her, basically?
I check on her.
I see. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Well, Department of Health and Social Care spokesperson said that we have given councils £9.4 billion more dedicated funding over 3 years to support them in this. We know the social care system is under pressure, and we will shortly outline the government's plan to reform social care to ensure it is sustainable in the future. That's what the government says.